Renaissance man, that is what we have here today. I'm so excited. Bruce Cryer is our guest today. And Bruce is a perfect person to talk about how we can make the best of our lives. He truly is a Renaissance man. He has a 4-decade career as a singer, actor, dancer, publisher, marketing executive, CEO, consultant, mentor, and coach for leaders in many diverse fields. Now, Bruce now brings his expertise and passion for this Renaissance living, which baby boomers listen up, and working to a select group of clients each year. His diverse and most fascinating background in leading successful companies and performing for large audiences blends beautifully to create a powerful, culturally rich, and results-driven approach with everyone he chooses to work with. Bruce began as an actor and a singer in New York. And I got to tell you this one fact, because I think this is really cool. Do you remember the Fantastics? He was the boy, but he was a boy in not one performance, but 800. Great to have you here on Life Maven podcast.
Thank you so much, Jody. I'm really looking forward to this. It's great to know you.
Yeah, it's fun, isn't it?
Absolutely.
I know that there was a mention about energy fields in also some of your work that I read. Would you like to talk a little bit about that?
Sure. Actually, there's a kind of a simple explanation for a term, energy fields, which can sound a little woo-woo, what's he been smoking? Oh, he lived in California for a long time. Oh, no wonder he's using that term. I get that.
I love that.
Yeah, yeah. And but energy fields are as simple as we've all had the experience. This doesn't happen so much anymore, but when we used to have regular radios on our cars, and you'd be driving along, and suddenly you're under power lines, and you'd hear all the static on the radio. Now that's like a fun old memory, because that doesn't happen anymore. But it used to happen because of the interference of the electrical field, the energy field created by this giant transformer that we're suddenly driving under. So that interfered. It caused like distortion in the signal our car was trying to get of the radio station we were listening to. So this big electrical field was distorting the signal, and so we can't hear the radio for a while until we get clear of the transformer we were driving under. And so we understand that. So, but the point was, that's an energy field that's being created by the intense high voltage electricity of that transformer that you're driving by. That's creating a field. It's not just electrical right on it. Anything electromagnetic, wires, lights, engines, create electrical fields that extend beyond the thing itself. As we know, because we used to drive through an electric field, not knowing that's what we were doing, and suddenly your radio is distorted and you can't hear what's going on for a while. So it turns out that human living systems, any kind of animal, plants even, also create electricity. And the human being is a great example of this. Every time our heart beats, there's an electrical signal produced. It's called the electrocardiogram, EKG or ECG. That's an electrical signal produced by the heart. When the heart contracts, it's creating electricity. And so that electrical signal is going to every single cell in our body, the electrical impulse of the heart every time it beats. That signal is not blocked by the skin. In other words, that electrical signal, just like with electrical transformer, it doesn't care that you're 100 feet below it. It gets right down to you, no problem, because it's a big field. Our heart also creates a big field. It's not an electrical transformer, but current medical equipment in hospitals can measure the heartbeat of someone several feet away from their body. So that means there's an electrical signal from a person's heart that's not just going internally to the rest of the body there's important reasons why the heart even has an electrical signal, but it also goes out into space. Now that's kind of interesting, because what HeartMath discovered in the early 90s was that the patterns of how our heart beats, whether it's kind of chaotic because we're stressed out, or smooth because we're feeling loving, or we're feeling joyful or peaceful or grateful, the patterns change moment by moment in our heart based upon our emotional state. And we proved that in around 1993, I think, in a published paper. Well, that idea was revolutionary because if you now put the science together and you say, oh, so you can measure a heartbeat several feet away from the body. Yes, the answer is yes. That's been true for decades, way before HeartMath came along. And now you're telling us that the pattern of how the heart's beating is changing depending upon our emotional state. And in other words, it's like an earthquake when you're stressed out for whatever reason. And it's like a beautiful wave, it's called a sine wave if you're happy or in a positive state. And it's going out into space. Uh-huh. So if you're ever around somebody really irritated, you don't want to be even around them, right? It's like, oh, you're not saying to yourself, the electrical field of that guy is distorting me. That's not, you're not thinking that. You're just noticing, I don't want to be near this guy. Or the opposite. Oh, what a warm-hearted person. Let's stay here for a minute. What a sweet, kind person. And so what we figured out was through a lot of science, a lot of measuring of humans, was that we as humans, we're constantly interacting in multiple ways to each other. We're perceiving each other. We're looking at the look on our face. We're looking at how they're nodding, how their gestures, are they going like this? But unconsciously, we're also picking up signals from their body, such as their heart. And we can register, like, I don't know why I'm feeling anxious all of a sudden, but whenever I'm near you, I feel kind of anxious. There's a kind of biological explanation for that now, that our bodies are interacting in these ways. So the heart's literally sending electrical fields, creating energy fields. Back to your original question, what about energy fields? Yeah, we all have them. We all make them all the time. And how that field looks, if we could measure it with the scientific equipment, is radically different depending on whether our emotions are stressful or positive. If they're positive, the field is what's called a coherent, happy field, so to speak. If we're stressed for any reason, frustrated, worried, depressed, angry, the field created by our heart is a chaotic, distorted field. And it doesn't mean everybody else just instantly starts feeling depressed, not at all. But you can feel it, you can register it at some level, and it just feels a little uncomfortable.
Well, yeah. And to me, because we're both children of the 70s, I remember people saying, oh, I feel your energy, or, when it's all, and at the time when I first heard the energy, and it was a little bit on the woo-woo side, but yet it made sense to me. And now as the years go on, it's medically proven. And that's the thing I even see this more holistic marriage between some of the quote unquote woo-woo things and the scientific. I mean, look what you're talking about, how we can actually coordinate, kind of have our breath and our mind connect through our heart in order to help us in whatever situation we're going through.
Yeah, it's a great point. And most of us don't think about it at all. I mean, high performance athletes think about their breath. They have to compete in marathons or sprint races or whatever sport they may be in. They have to think about their breath. And athletes tend to be more tuned into this idea that if I'm anxious, it's going to affect my performance negatively. Somebody in business doesn't necessarily assume that. I'm anxious. I have no choice. There's pressure. So I'm just going to keep on going. It doesn't matter that I'm anxious. It doesn't matter that I alienate my fellow coworkers. My anxiety is not your problem. An athlete says that's crazy. Like you've got to deal with that internal energy that's not going to allow you to perform at your best. It's just not going to work that way. So to me, there's a lot of exciting stuff that's been coming out to kind of validate what a lot of people intuitively knew, but didn't have any science to put to it. So it sounded pretty woo-woo because you didn't have science. But with the breath, there's a great example in all the HeartMath techniques. Well, in most of the HeartMath techniques, doing some focused breathing is part of it. And part of why not only it was obvious to us as we were studying this that there are many traditions of the world, from yoga systems that teach pranayama, this controlled breathing, to many other schools of breathing that have been around in some cases for thousands of years. And the idea of breath work has become very popular in the last 20 or 30 years. The ideas of specific ways to learn to manage how you breathe, and specific practices you can do to lower anxiety, to heighten cognitive function, etc. But as HeartMath was exploring how to teach these ideas of learning how to regulate what's happening in our heart in the name of feeling better, in the name of being kinder, being more loving, more compassionate, part of what we discovered in our research was that there's a breathing rhythm, 5 seconds in on an in-breath, 5 seconds out on the out-breath, which is scientifically kind of established as the best, the most viable and most useful for humans in general. It's called the RSA, which stands for respiratory sinus arrhythmia. And basically it means it's kind of the optimal breathing rate, 5 seconds in, 5 seconds out. The older we get, 5 seconds in can seem a little slow. Like, can I do it in 4? Sure, do 4 if that's the best you can do. But the idea of regulating the breath, because again, the average person, we've never learned anything about this in our entire lives, unless maybe we're an athlete or a singer. Then we might have had to learn it kind of for our profession. So this idea of regulating our breath, and imagine we could breathe in through the heart for 5 seconds and then breathe out slowly through the heart for 5 seconds. That process brings into balance a number of systems in our body to allow us to feel more relaxed. It's like quieting the noise of the transformer that's buzzing around us. It's still buzzing, but now I'm not reacting to it in the same way. I'm able to just kind of calm my system down. So that practice of breathing in and out slowly, about 5 seconds in, about 5 seconds out, is a fantastic way when you're in any kind of anxious or fearful or worried condition. Okay, let me just breathe now. And it turns out our breath is designed to help us in all kinds of ways beyond just the obvious of we would die if we didn't breathe. But it's not just it's not just about that. You don't only breathe so that you don't die. You breathe so you can live as fully as possible and cleanse the body of things that are collecting inside it.
Well, I agree with you on that, because one of the things, as a matter of fact, we've done this in yoga, that we always say the breath is the thing that moves the movement. Our bodies, we just don't yank it in there. It's the breath and how the breath comes through us. And also we have done, as it happens, we always start yoga with some sort of intention. They'll say, well, breathe through your heart. And we've done that. And also with the pranayamas where we hold our breath or let it out. And all that is about, what do we take off the mat? And that's what I'm kind of hearing from you. What are we taking off your mat, so to speak? Could you see yourself maybe 20 years out, 30 years out?
Darn right. That's the plan. Absolutely. I mean, there's tons of evidence now. There's a lot of tremendous amount of research going into longevity medicine, being called longevity medicine, that the assumptions that we hold largely from the medical world, that there's this kind of gradual decline of everything, and you can maybe slow it down a little bit, but forget about reversing it. That's the general view. There's a lot of research coming along saying that's just really not true. That idea is based on basically unhealthy eating, because the average American diet is nowhere near close to being really healthful, regenerative diet. That's based on most people, the vast majority, especially as we age, largely sedentary. COVID didn't help.
Oh, no, no.
Number of hours spent in front of a computer screen so it kind of fed the worst habits of many of us to, oh, now I'm so tired. What do you mean you've been sitting for 8 hours? What do you mean you're so tired? Well, it's tiring sitting for hours. Well,
yes, I'm being tired.
But that's not a good enough excuse to not exercise. But a lot of us I've said that to myself some days too. It's like, oh, this was exhausting. I don't even have the energy to exercise, which is the worst part of me to give into, because always when I exercise, I feel better. And now the evidence says the more we keep regular exercise going, some of which needs to be vigorous, not all vigorous exercise, but some needs to be vigorous, because it just keeps the system more flexible, keeps the blood richer with oxygen, keeps the muscles more toned. There's a lot of evidence now that we need to keep exercising. We need to keep building strength even when we're older. I go to the gym and work out 3-4 days a week, and I'm not just sitting there watching other people work out. I'm really working out, and it's hard some days. I don't try to whitewash that at all. It's not easy. You little aches and pains that didn't used to be there, but they are now. And those aches and pains you kind of adjust to by being tense. The tensing that we do because of the pain compresses muscles, constricts muscles, so the muscles get tighter, which then increases pain. And so then when we try to exercise, like the muscles don't want to do anything because they're all kind of tight. So because either we've been sitting too much or we haven't done anything to kind of stretch a little bit. And if there's one thing I would really say to any of us who are, I mean, and really any of us at any age, it's not just about those of us, baby boomers or older, but that the need to continue to stretch and stay flexible. You spoke of yoga. I'm so happy you do yoga.
Yeah.
And I do yoga. I do yoga whenever I work out at the gym. I do a half an hour of yoga and some significant stretching before I do anything else that's going to do the strength side of things. But I think many, and again, it's such a shame societally. We weren't trained to stretch as kids. Who taught us to stretch? I mean, maybe there was little in gym class that were kind of pointless, that weren't really stretching. They were just kind of aggravating muscles. But who taught us to stretch? Really, nobody. So it's not a habit we ever had, most people. And yet it's one of the most important things to keep flexibility so there's blood flow, so the brain's getting all that it needs. Stretching is so important. And, I've found, like, I'm sure like everybody our age, little like turning around to look behind you in the car or stretch for something and you go, ow, that never used to happen. Why does that happen? Well, it's because you haven't stayed flexible, dude. There's no secret here. You're not still flexible. So that movement, you've allowed your body to get stiffer and stiffer and stiffer because you're not using it in flexible ways anymore. Understandably so, because you got little aches and pains from stuff happening in life. So those pains cause the body to tense. The tensing of the body causes the muscles to get tighter. You're in a loop. I know the feeling. Trust me. I've had double hip replacement, and I had to earn my way out of that to the point where not only can I dance again, but if the viewers here even know what a yoga squat is, a yoga squat means like I look like a yogi. I'm completely in a squat position with my heels on the floor, and I can be down there for 5 or 10 minutes if I needed to be. And most guys my age, I'll turn 70 in a couple months, can't even dream of, like, why would I do that? Like, I have no interest in doing. And yet, so my point being, my body, even having gone through all that I went through, even having double hip replacement, I've stayed I've worked back into being flexible because I know my muscles will continue to deteriorate if I don't feed them. And that means stretching them as well as building strength. And I think so many people, my mother, we think before her Alzheimer's started, there was maybe a series of mini strokes where she fell and hurt her hip. And that's common, right? But there's a lot of reasons why that can happen. But if there's no core strength, if there's not enough strength in our legs, if there's not the flexibility in our muscles, it's that much easier to lose balance and then just bang into stuff. Like now I could lose my balance, but I still have enough flexibility. I can kind of catch myself and, oh, I'm fine. Because the body's still flexible. I'm not all stiff. So hopefully this is all making sense to you.
It's a lot of sense because one of the things that I also want to add on to that is that it really isn't an excuse not to do anything even after surgery. I had major surgery in February. I had a shoulder cuff and a big deal shoulder cuff. My tendons were completely ripped from the bone. Very serious. Yeah. So I have about a 9-month where I really I'm not using my writing hand that much. So, but I can tell you this much. I have learned to modify my yoga. Does it look like what I used to do? Oh, of course not. Nowhere near it. But it's for me, and I can do it as long as I'm not touching or moving any of this for right now because I'm still in early recuperation. And so I really believe that there's always something we can do, even if it's just putting your arm out or whatever it is, whatever you're able to do, because what you're saying is just do it. There's no magic, like I can't do it for half an hour, forget it. Or I can't do that. And what you're saying is this is how, we don't sit here and eat bonbons all day and expect to turn 25, I mean, it's not going to happen. And yeah, it is work, but that's how our warranties on our body parts are. I can't say why this happened. I mean, I'm pretty flexible, but I'm looking at the spiritual reasons why this happened. I can tell you that much. And I'm learning. I think my biggest lesson is to slow down. So I'm learning to slow down and pause a lot more. So I need, sometimes I guess we need that stuff from the universe to tell us to slow down. And what you're saying is, yeah, and And I love that, not yeah, but yeah, and here's what we can do. And one of the things that I think is also interesting about you is that you're in intergenerational learning, as I am on another platform at the University of Salem in Salem, West Virginia. What's it like being back in academia? Is that how they say academia?
Academia, yeah, you got it right. Well, I kind of felt like I never was. I mean, I did go to college, and I went to this place, the Oberlin Conservatory, which I was there to learn to sing, dance, and act. So this was a almost completely non-academic experience. I was in dance classes, voice classes, theater classes, improv classes, carnival technique, weird acting stuff, weird dance stuff, just everything I could to learn to be flexible in every way that I knew how, my voice, my spirit, my body. So that was a very non-traditional, non-academic kind of background. So the fact that I'm in academia at all is the shocker. I didn't even go to my college graduation because I was already a working actor in New York City and I had a show. I was in a show, so I couldn't leave to go to my college graduation. So and I don't live on campus. I don't have to be on the campus. The school, Salem University, has both an online component of hundreds of students and then a small on-campus set of students that are mostly there for sports and nursing. So it's a kind of interesting environment. So it's interesting because the university is in the midst of a shift in its focus over the next 6 or 7 years to becoming very much a healthcare focused university with programs for nurses and people that want to become health professionals, people interested in health sciences, with an emphasis on holistic approaches. So the school you referred to, the Graduate Institute, where I was CEO for a year and a half, that the assets of that school, it was not doing, COVID was unkind to many graduate schools and many universities, period. And this one was struggling. And the board had said, if you can find partners to acquire us, we don't want to die completely if we can survive in any way. So Salem came in and purchased the key curriculum assets and other things from the university, and they wanted me to come with it. So I'm part of Salem University and direct something called the Integrative Health Institute at Salem University. And so we're bringing in programs like an integrative health coaching program where nurses looking for a different career in healthcare are attracted to the idea of becoming a health coach instead of just being a nurse, because health coaches get to do things that nurses have no time to do. And other health professionals or people into wellness and for whatever reason are drawn to this idea of being a health coach. So we're launching a program starting May 1st, actually, around health coaching, integrative health coaching. So bringing holistic principles to the way people get coached about their health goals, their health needs. So this is an example of the kind of program we're bringing in as this new Integrative Health Institute for Salem University. And there are certificate programs and there are continuing education courses around stress and HeartMath and creativity and pain management, a variety of different programs, some just for professionals who want to become a health coach as part of a career path, others that are more just about educating the public about living healthier and living weller, if you will.
What is it that you would like to share with the audience about what you can offer them and how you can benefit them?
Well, if anybody wants to stay in touch, my name is on all the social media platforms. So Bruce Cryer on Facebook, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, all those places. I have a website cleverly named brucecryer.com. So just my name. I don't have some other name or phrase that I use. So there's that. I run courses occasionally online on creativity, on HeartMath, etc. Occasionally when I'm back in New York, I get a chance to perform. And so, people can, if they go to the website, they can become part of a mailing list. So they'll know, you'd know what upcoming programs were happening, or I get interviewed a lot on podcasts. I'm delighted that we've connected, Jody. And so I put out the other podcasts that I get on. Sometimes it's all about health. Sometimes it's all about creativity. Sometimes it's, about AI. I did a very interesting talk with a lady in Zurich, Switzerland, about the future of AI and how that impacts trying to be a heart-based person. when we're being, run by artificial intelligence in certain ways. So, so if people want to kind of follow me, so to speak, those are the ways to do that. And yeah, I'm out there more and more, just kind of talking to wonderful, curious, adventuresome people like you.
Thank you. It really has been a delight. There's so much to cover with you because I have so many ideas in my head and so many actually other things I wrote down that we just didn't have time for. Thank you for what you're doing and helping us all age backwards, as well as really be a model for how we can be our own Renaissance person. Thanks for being a part of it.
My pleasure, Jody. Loved it very much.